Welcome back to Design, Engineer, and Build. And excuse my cluttered workbench, but today I'm going to make a small platform feeder using this as the tray at the bottom. And I got one of these squirrel dome plastic things that will cover the top. You get a piece of 1/2-inch steel rod that I'm going to form into a hook at the top. We'll go through the top of the dome, through the bottom of the tray, and we'll thread it, put a nut at the bottom, and I'm going to put like 4 or 5 little supports for the bottom of the tray. Weld those onto a 1/2-inch nut once we got that on the bottom and put together, and that'll pretty much complete it. I've got one collar that will fit here as the 1/2-inch rod comes through. This will retain this top where I want to, and I'll drill a hole in this and put a cotter pin in that to keep that retained. Got a little 1/2-inch grommet. Once it goes through, I'll put a little grommet in the bottom to keep that. And other than that, cotter pins, nuts, and washers, and that's about it. So stick with me and we'll figure this out. So the first thing today I'm going to do, the very top of the dome has this little insert, and I need to bring this up to a 1/2-inch. So I'm just going to take probably a step drill it up so I can hold on to it at the same time and bring that up to about 1/2 inch so the steel rod will fit through it. So now that we have the 1/2-inch hole in here, now I take this bushing, and I meant to get a 1/2 inch, I got 5/8, but I'm going to use it anyway. That will sit like so, and then the cotter pin will go through here. So I need to put a hole through here, hopefully about halfway, all the way through, so the cotter pin will go through. I have a 3/32 cotter pin, so I went up one size to a 7/64 when I drilled the hole. So now I need to put a 1/2-inch plus hole in the middle of this. The grommet that I'm going to put in here calls for 11/16. I don't have 11/16. I do have a 5/8, which I think I'll probably use and then just make it slightly bigger. So that's what I'm going for. So now I step drilled up to 5/8 and I made kind of a ragged hole, but you put that grommet in there after a little filing to kind of clean it up and get the shards and stuff around the edge of the hole kind of cleaned up. That grommet kind of cleans it up really nice. So now the next thing I did to this pour pan is make a couple concentric holes and use my compass just because I wanted them evenly spaced. Certainly don't have to, but I put some drain holes in. I just used a nail set that I've taken the blunt end off and sharpened the point, and just use that as a, you can use an awl or whatever you want to do, screwdriver. Don't tell anybody I told you that, but you could. Anyway, that's the next step. We're moving right along. So now if you start with something thinner for your stem to hang this feeder on than 1/2 inch, you maybe don't have to do quite so much planning. But to make this hook, first I'm going to make a round hook at the top, then bend it just past the hook at an angle, and then about center from that angle, I'm going to bend it back straight. So hopefully I end up with something that looks like this. Now the other thing I've done in addition to support the base of that tray is I've cut 4.5 inch by 3/8 inch steel rod, kind of cleaned them up, cleaned that black film that they have on the outside, grinded the edges square, etc. And then also taken a 1/2 inch nut put it in the vise and drilled out a 1/2 inch hole, which essentially just takes the threads out. But that'll slide then onto that stem or the hook that comes out the bottom. Okay, so it's at the time of the shooting, it's winter. Got the heat on out in the garage, but I've got my oxyacetylene out here and I'm all set up. I got my safety equipment, I got some heavier leather gloves, I've got my helmet with the shade. I've got the oxyacetylene head up, set up with the rosebud thing and tip. And then I've got this clamped to my table and my pliers to bend as I heat it up. I've got all these small little rods arranged around that 1/2 inch nut. Got my MIG welder out and I'm just going to tack these to that nut and then finish welding them once they're tacked. Now I'm looking at my hook that you saw me fabricate, and I need to measure exactly how big the dome is, how much space I need between, etc., etc. So my dome is 6 inches. Right here, from here to here is my 6-inch piece for my dome. I've got an existing feeder that is about another 6 inches for the birds to get in and out of. And it's enough room for the blue jays to get in and out, so I think that's adequate. Now the tray width is about 2.5 to 3 inches. I allowed just an extra 1/2 inch there for the tray, just a little fudge room. And then I've got the support for the tray, the nut underneath that holds it in place, and then I'm going to give another 1/2 inch for a pin to go through. I want to drill a hole and put another cotter pin in, maybe a washer there, to hold that nut from untwisting. So that's the plan. So I think I'm going to cut it off here and we'll thread this inch of space and then move on from there and clean this all up. All right, so here's the setup from the bottom. I threaded this up about 1 inch. Got a washer. I drilled a hole through that for a cotter pin to hold that nut in place. I'll throw a washer up in here, and there's that little platform support for the base. Now the tray will go right in here, and then up about a little bit here we've got the bushing, and then again I put another hole through the shaft here and through the bushing, and I'll cotter pin that in. And above that will be this little piece that holds the plastic dome on, and then the dome will be set right here as well. So now I've got all my components assembled. My tray, everything's been painted, so hopefully keep it a little more rust proof. And the only thing I've added in addition is some stainless steel wire. And that, once I tip this over, put this on here over the hole, and I'm going to poke some holes on either side of these legs and put a wire loop around there and twist it from the bottom and turn it over just to keep that in place. I think the rest of the assembly is pretty much self-explanatory. So here's our finished product. Everything went well. I did put some silicone on this painted 1/2-inch steel here just to help with assembly so things didn't get scraped. But everything went great. Collar fits on there with the collar pin, retains the top. Fits through that grommet that we drilled the hole for in the bottom. These are attached then with that stainless steel wire. And then at the very bottom I've got a washer, nut washer, and another cotter pin that'll hold that all in place. So that's our finished product. A little easy, kind of a weekend project if you've got the tools to bend this. Otherwise, like I said, you could use a thinner shafted steel rod to complete this as well. So I appreciate you tuning in to Design, Engineer, and Build. And we'll not really sure what we're up to next time, but we'll figure something out. Have a great day.